get into an average university, it's not bad also. Okay, a lot of people get into the top-notch university without funding. It's not even bad. But the thing is, if you get both a good university and a funding, that's where the euphoria lies. So when I talk about admissions and scholarships, it requires more or less similar criteria. If you are a right fit student for that particular course, for that particular university, in that intake, you have a high likelihood of getting a scholarship also. So when we talk about scholarship, we usually think about Erasmus Mendez Scholarship, Rhodes Scholarship, Stanford GSB, or Knight NSA, MEC. So these are Chevening in Oxford. So these are the primary highlighted scholarships. In Canada, we have Bernier Scholarship also. So there are tons and tons of scholarships out there. A lot of students who are very much active on internet are able to find out. A lot of students are not. We usually miss out because of unawareness. For the reason, at foreignadmits.com, if you go to a website like foreignadmits.com/scholarship, we have listed more than 6,000 scholarships on the date and also as for the courses. You can just filter it out and see what kind of scholarship might fit you in. Okay, so just to ease you, with your scholarship. To build a profile for a scholarship, you need few essential elements. The number one element, it's not like a priority. I'm not giving any priority list. Don't just make okay, this is number one, number two, number three. It's not like that. But these are a bunch of factors that you need to have. Or if one factor is low, the other factors can, superimpose your weaknesses. So that's how you can mix and match. So academics has to be good. If you're applying for any research-based scholarships, your academics would be really important. If you're applying for any leadership-based scholarships, your positions of responsibilities, your projects, your volunteering, your work experiences, based leadership experience, those are the kinds of things which will be important. Okay, and if you are applying for any project funding kind of a thing, then your particular previous work or previous subject knowledge or your previous internship experience has to be in alignment with that kind of project for which you are applying. Okay, which brings to a very important classification of scholarships. Okay. Scholarships can be classified into internal, which basically a university department or the funding agency is going to provide you. That could be an academic or project-based scholarship. The number two is external scholarship, the one which I named currently, like a Dhirubhai Ambani scholarship for Stanford that you can easily apply for, or even IST in Australia, Austria. For PhD, you can apply. DARD has certain external fellowships. So these are the external scholarships in which you might have to apply to your professor, get their intent that, hey, if the student gets a scholarship, I'll be very happy to take him in for the particular PhD or for the master's program. So this is how it works. Okay, the other scholarships are basically industrial fellowships, which is usually being published on majority of the university websites. If you go into the research section or the job section, they usually mention their master's or PhD or postdoctoral fellowships that way. Okay, and that process is very much set and straight. They have certain criteria of their essays, research proposal, statement of purpose, letter of recommendations, and all those things that you need to do. And also, you might have to apply to a professor, get their interest that yes, the student kind of fits in our program, and I'll be very happy to take it if he considers the application process. So those are the ways that you can apply internally and externally, and with the project funding. So these are the major three scholarships. The other scholarships are basically like published on Google. Google even funds for PhD up to $100,000. Same with Microsoft, same with Facebook. So all the big tech giants have their own small funding to fund certain research-oriented programs for meritorious students, but those are highly competitive scholarships. The different ways of funding for your master's or PhD is again towards getting a stipend from professor. The professor may take you in for a particular project for the master's or your PhD, and that project may have some funding in available. So that funding professor can give you as a stipend or as your living assistantship or your teaching assistantship, that you can easily use for, or research assistantship. So that's another way of funding yourself. And these research assistantships can range from, if we are talking in dollars, somewhere around $1,000 to even $3,000, $4,000 also, depends on professor to professor, project to project, based on that. And then when we talk about teaching assistantship, a lot of master students who don't get a scholarship, but get a good university, they go early to the university. They find out what kind of teaching assistantships are available, apply to the professor, understand the process, either in that semester or in the next semester. They get enrolled into teaching assistantship. If you're going for a PhD, also it's a good thing to practice. Teaching assistantship not only gives you a good amount of money per month, but also helps you understand how academics work. And these are the kind of things is very important if you're considering, PhD or any academic position like postdoctoral fellowship or any research-based fellowships in future. And even if you are going for academia, like becoming an assistant professor or lecturer, these are really value-additive points. Even if you are there in currently in Ashok, if you get a teaching assistantship, try getting enrolled into that. That will help you build your profile for your research-based program. And teaching assistantship can also bring you somewhere around $20 per hour to somewhere around $60 per hour, which is the maximum I've seen. I was earning in Monash University somewhere around $45 per hour. And there's a particular amount of hour limit that you have, let's say 20 hours work week. So you have to work only in that amount, and that will give you a decent amount of pay. So those are the other modes that you can earn. Apart from, like, a lot of students go for part-time work. It's good. For me, it was more of a cultural exposure. I literally worked, for a week in one of the cafeterias in my university, just to understand how these things work. In-campus jobs are also there for library, for administrative. That will also give you a certain amount of money that will help you cover your living and sustainability expenses. So these are the basic areas that you can avail funding. So don't just feel like, okay, fully funded is the thing that I'll go for. Not everyone is gonna get fully funded. Let me, bring up the curtains here. Fully funded scholarships are very limited, but these kinds of partial funding are pretty much more in number. If you can grab a partial fellowship, that's a good way to start your, master's or your PhD, and then slowly you can also, expand on your earning ability. And then there are a lot of internal scholarships that you can easily enroll. In Monash, I remember winning $1,000 of internal scholarship, which helped me, let's say, for a month or so. So that way you can always, extend on, getting more and more opportunities to fund yourself in your master's or your PhD. The important factors that will help you build up your profile is your academic grades, your research proposal. If you're going for masters by research, or if you're going for a PhD, you might have to write a small research proposal. Try practicing that right now. If you have 7 to 9 months down the line, it's going to take some time to refine those research proposals as per your target university or target courses or target available funding position, PhD positions that might fit your research. Okay, so try to make a little broad research proposal with certain points, which could be, a little bit like a flexibility has to be there. You can't be just drilling down to one particular topic. If that has no funding, then you might have to, settle down with no application. So grades, academic grades is important. Research proposal is important. Your statement of purpose would be important once you're applying for it, but it's going to take some time to, come to a very good statement of purpose, which would basically highlight your whole journey of academic and extracurricular and leadership in 3 to 4 years of your time with your friends. And then letters of recommendation are highly important if you're applying for a research-based program, because academicians usually see the letter of recommendation with a very top priority. Trust me, this is something that will get you even better opportunities, even if you have a little bit of a lower grade. I remember getting my full funded PhD because of 2 very solid letter of recommendations which I had. Okay. Research publications again is going to add a bit of value. If you are having certain kind of research projects, try converting into a publication, try presenting it into a good national or international conference, or maybe a journal. Prefer journal upfront, because journal publications have a more preference than a conference publication, and also see the impact factor or the scope for registered journals only. Don't publish in any private journals which will not bring a better value. Okay, so having a good publication definitely increase your chances by multiple fold for your masters and for your PhD, and even for funding. Okay. Then, as I said, teaching assistantship, if you have performed in your bachelor's also, it's again good. Then I feel more or less these are the essential points. Your scores will also matter to cut off certain criteria. If you are scoring very low, then only it's a concern. But general model score 7.5 plus in IELTS, let's say, 310, 320 plus in GRE are usually the base scores that you can easily, fulfill for your PhD application. For masters, it becomes competitive, depends on field to field. If you're in computer science, then yes, definitely 325 plus is something that you should be expected to bring for a very, very good university for funding. But trust me, this is not the only factor. We have seen students with 300 in the 2 GRE scores securing almost like full funding in Europe, for their masters. That something is again application to application. So these are the bunch of factors that you might have to focus to get a good, program. But alongside with that, there has to be a right evaluation of your profile against the university that you're applying. Don't just run after funding and apply at any kind of program. Find out the right kind of universities, right kind of colleges or course structures. Those are the things that you might have to look in. And if you're looking for PhD, focus more on your professor than just the university, because PhD is more about a professor and a student relationship, and that's where you have to spend a lot of time in doing your research work. Okay. And when you are finding out the universities and the courses, do not just look for rankings of the universities. These rankings are predominantly made for a corporate academia world, not for a student perspective. If you are following the rankings, you might be highly misled. I'll just give you one instance. Swinburne University in Australia is number 2 rank in astronomy and astrophysics. Okay, so that's something they have an ample amount of funding. If anyone is looking into that kind of field, Swinburne is a really good university that you might have to look at. Okay, the professors are good, the research infrastructure is good. All those things are really important. But if you're looking towards a more job-oriented, course, then you should look towards the geography. If you're going for US, try to always stay around the, Bay Area or the Valley, because that's where the local hiring is going to be influential, and you will get easily a better job rather than going for Texas or any kind of a far places. That's one of the things. Also look into the visa aspect. The countries that's gonna give you a better visa, if that is their interest, then definitely look into those visa aspects, because ROI is far more important than just a small scholarship that you might get, for a period of time. Because a lot of universities will give you $4,000, $5,000 of scholarship, but then the ROI after graduating from your course, you might be struggling with your job. That's something you need to plan upfront. If you're going for, an average university, do look towards the geography where you are applying, so that will give you a more kinds of a better job prospect, and that will also give you more collaboration, more networking, and that will help you to get more different kinds of funding, more like an apprenticeships or co-op opportunities. That will improve your profile and get you a better masters out of it. So yeah, this is predominantly important factors that you might have to look at when you are considering for scholarship. And the time frame basically that you need to look at for scholarship somewhere varies from as low as 6 months as high as 1.5 years also. So some scholarships like Stanford, GSB and all, they open up a year long before, and it takes time. The process is lengthy because they're going to give you 80% of the Stanford MBA fees, let's say. So 80% of the Stanford MBA fees is somewhere around $200,000, okay? $150,000 to $200,000. And that's where the whole competition lies. So if you're planning for a good scholarship, try to save at least 9 to 12 months of your time before that. Only start preparing, start building your profile, because profile building is something I think Saurav will talk more later on. How can you build your profile? But certain pointers that I can cover is profile building takes time. If you don't have volunteering or social aspect in your profile, and if you're going for top MBAs or a management program, it would be difficult. Okay, have certain kinds of volunteering aspects. If you are having any chance to get into a Big Four or an MVP for an internship, be it even unpaid, go there, do this. Okay, associate yourself at an early days with brands for your MBA program. For research programs, do more research-based internships. Do more project assistantships. Okay, do more these technical projects at the departmental level. Do more collaborative projects. So these are the things that will take time. That can't happen in the last 3 months of your application. So you ideally, if we have seen students who have gotten like full funding in University of Toronto, they have prepared at least 15 to 18 months before. Okay, and that's something is really important once you are aiming for a very, very good university. Okay, so that's something from my side. Then if we are looking at country level diversification, there are a lot of scholarships in Europe. Not many people know about it because of the language barrier. You should try to explore more and more websites for that. GARD is one of the best websites for Germany that you can always go. But for countries like Austria and all, try to go to their embassy sites, try to network on ResearchGate with professors of those universities and try to follow that. You can easily do one thing that we are trying to help you out in that. You can always go to Foreign Advocates LinkedIn page and even Foreign Advocates blog. We cover almost every day one very unique scholarship or a funded position for the students. Like lately we published about Germany, Austria, Finland, and there are a lot of other Scandinavian countries which has tons of opportunities available, but not many people know. And again, learning a foreign language, talking about Scandinavian countries, is something I cannot miss out. Learning a foreign language exponentially increases your scholarship chances to many countries. Because if you know their foreign languages, they consider you to be far more collaborative in their whole batch, and that's where you can have an edge in your applications. And more opportunities later on open up in your career. If you are planning to learn French, German, learn it now. Okay. If you are learning it here, it would be far less expensive. You can definitely do 1 or 2 certifications here, and that would easily, give you more booster points in your scholarship application. So yeah, so this is it. Now I'll hand over to Saurabh. Saurabh is an amazing friend of ours in our Erasmus Mundus Scholar. So I believe Saurabh can well define himself in his introduction.
First of all, I would like to thank Nikhil and Foreign Admit to invite me for this talk. And I'm Saurabh Singh, and currently I'm Erasmus Mundus Scholarship holder as well as MyTech Scholarship holder in Canada. Currently, I'm pursuing my last semester at University of Toronto as a summer exchange student. Previously, I have worked with Jacobs and CH2M and AECOM as a consultant in the water sector. They are like the biggest company in civil engineering and water engineering group. So after graduating in 2016, I worked 2 years in Jacobs, and while working, I realized I need to have a higher master's degree, which can help me to fast track my career in engineering. And if you are targeting to become a CEO of that company within 15 years or 20 years, you should be having a master's degree. It's like must in engineering sector. Maybe after this, you can also go for MBA, but if I'm working in civil, particularly in water, you should be having master's degree and a good exposure. So just like Nikhil, I also came from a middle class family. My dad used to work for Indian Air Force, and I was shifting to a lot of places while growing up. And one thing was sure for my part was I want a master's which is fully funded, because I invested a lot of money during my undergrad. I was already working in my dream company, Jacobs. It's the top-notch company where I can get placed in civil engineering sector. It's like McKinsey of civil, and I was already working there, being happy there. So there was no point of investing 40-50 lakhs going to USA and then struggling and then getting the job in the same company or dreaming to get a job in the same firm. So one thing was decided in my part, I want a full scholarship master, and that too in which I can get the maximum exposure rather than just knowledge, because I felt like knowledge you can gain while working in a firm also, and most probably the things which you will be studying during your masters, it's not going to be 100% aligning with the same thing which you will be working during your job. So learning was one part, but the other aspects were exploring myself, spending time outside India, traveling to various places. Basically, I was inspired by Jawani Diwani, and I wanted to be the Kabir of that movie. So what were the various ways? I started applying to different places and I started exploring. As Nikhil mentioned, I started really early, 1 year before my application. And I decided that I will not be applying in USA because the requirement of GRE, I didn't find full scholarship in my program. And again, it was really difficult there, because after graduating, you will get 3-year OPT, H1B, didn't sponsor. You can't see yourself in a longer term. So I decided to go for Erasmus Mundus and other programs in Europe as well as in Canada. I applied to various scholarships, and I applied in college like McGill University, Toronto, Oxford, few places in Europe. And I got an admit from nearly all of them except Oxford. But I wanted to go for a joint master's program, and that's why I decided to go for Erasmus Mundus scholarship, because in this program it's designed by European Commission and you can study each semester in different country and university, and that's what I wanted, to get maximum exposure and travel to various countries in Europe. So I will say, yeah. After applying, there were a set of procedure, and after clearing all of them, I will explain how you can also get this scholarship. But initially, I'm explaining what I did, and then I will explain how you can do it. So I applied for this scholarship, and fortunately, I got it. There was an interview, and this scholarship is most prestigious scholarship in this world, and as well as the most generous one also. Nikhil was talking about $5,000, $10,000 dollars of fund scholarship, but this scholarship pays around 49,000 euro, which is equivalent to around 40 lakh. So all my friends who are senior to me, I was asking about this scholarship, and they were saying that it's a fully paid 2 year of Euro trip. So you can just come, enjoy, study, explore Europe, and when you will be returning back to India, in the worst case scenario, in case if you couldn't get a job, still you will be having 5 to 10 lakhs in your bank account, not from your own pocket, but from European Commission. So you don't need to worry about spending a single penny. Right from taking your first flight, you can, to be honest, they pay you so much that you can take a business class flight to Europe. So right from day one till day, like after 2 years, you will be having full funding in all the aspects you can think about. So yeah, I got an admit from EuroAqua program. It's a joint master's program by European Commission, in which you can study your 4th semester in 4 different universities, and you are the one who will be designing your masters. Like, you can decide whether you want to study your 1st semester in Spain, France, Germany, Poland, UK. There will be consortium of 15 consortium of universities in your program, and they will allow you to choose your 1st semester. 2nd semester is mandatory, and then 3rd semester again you will choose depending upon your specialization. So my thought process was UPC is among the top 25 school for civil engineering, and again I wanted to start like in a little lazier way, like okay, going to Barcelona, spending time there learning Spanish as well as Catalan, which is the local language of Catalonia region. So I decided to go for UPC Barcelona. I spent my 1st semester there, and just to show you the diversity, like I had 10 students and all 10 were from different country. You can see the guy next to me is from Ecuador, Italian, Germany, South Africa, Brazilian, Colombian, Pakistan. So if you're studying in this kind of diverse class where European Commission is choosing only one student from one country, you can imagine which kind of inputs you will be getting during the classes. Like when we discuss, we get so many inputs from different continent, different perspective, how things happen in Colombia, how things goes in Mexico. You will give your Indian aspect, then Australian guy will be telling things about his country. So the difference between studying in India and outside, one of the major region is the kind of diversity you have in your class. In Barcelona, I attended a lot of festival. Apart from program, I traveled to a lot of places nearby. Like during Christmas, I had enough funding to travel to like 8 to 9 countries nearby, as well as I learned the local language there. Yeah, as part of this program, you will be studying your subjects. You no need to work for part-time because you have a scholarship, but at the same time you need to learn the local language. It's part of one of the program. So each semester, wherever you are living, you need to learn the local. So I learned a little bit of Spanish as well as Catalan there, and I had an amazing time. My 1st semester was really good. So for 2nd semester, I went to Newcastle University in England. This was a semester in which this European Commission tried to include all the students from different countries who are in your program. So for me, I chose to go to Barcelona. Similarly, there would be some student in my program itself, they're chosen to go to France or maybe Germany. So for next semester, what they do, they will invite all the students from different university who are from my program, and they will put us in one platform where we can meet each other and we can see who are the other students in your program, and you can study together at one place and in that way they can also see who is doing good, and it's a great way of like meeting new people in a large group. So my second semester was at Newcastle, and it was one of the most amazing semester. I really liked the UK way of teaching. There were no exams except one, and most of the time it was practically based. Like they were giving me situation like, okay, flood is going to come in New York, or what will be your strategy to help or mitigate this flooding in from UK or in cities in UK and all. So you will be making report along with environmental agency or government of UK, and then those reports will also be included, or they will be taken by government, and they can also use them for the future development. So although you are working or you are completing your assignment as a student, but to be honest, you are working like a consultant for them, and the best projects will be getting implemented also in UK. So that was pretty amazing. And you can see from this scholarship, I'm getting exposure in different countries. Like if you go to a normal master's program, you will be studying in 2 years in one place itself. But just because I had this scholarship and this master's program, I was studying six months in each country and in each university. So after two semesters, around 10 months, you will get 3 months of summer break. So most of my classmates, they were moving back to their country. Some were moving to Nice or in France just to spend holidays. So I thought, why not to utilize this time? Like, this is the most important time of my life. I'm in Europe. Why not to utilize it by doing something good? So I thought of, okay, I will join an internship. And I decided to go with AECOM Germany, because AECOM is the biggest competitor of Jacobs. Jacobs is on number 1. AECOM lies on number 2. So I wanted to see the other side of like company, like, okay, how their competitor works. Fortunately, I managed to get into AECOM, and my clients were US Department of Defense, US Air Force, and because US Department of Defense has an air base back in Europe, from where they manage their all European headquarters. So this client was English speaking, so there was no problem with language. Otherwise, in Germany, most of the time when you will join an internship or job, you should be having a basic knowledge of German so that you can communicate with your client. So this internship was normal internship, like, okay, working with client as a consultant. But the highlight was I got an opportunity to go for a pro bono initiative. My manager called me and he said that there is a death of 40 students, small kids, back in Uganda, and due to drinking contaminated water, and we are thinking to do something for them. But this project is a pro bono, which means we won't be getting funding, and we will be putting money from our own pocket. So just because of this prestigious scholarship to back me off, and I was also earning a good amount of stipend from AECOM, I said that, okay, I don't need a single penny. Maybe I will use my internship, all the stipend, will book my ticket and go to Uganda to save the life of kids. And that's what I did. I recruited 4 or 5 students from Germany, took a flight, went to Uganda, and then there I established water purification system, pump station, HDP pipelines by my own. And this was the first time. Earlier I was working as a consultant, and during consulting, I was just giving advices to CEOs and top management companies and filling their pocket. But this was the first time I was putting things, what knowledge I gained during my engineering on a ground level. So last year, I was fortunate enough to celebrate India's Independence Day with these small kids. There were like 250 kids on an island called Zinga Island. This is so isolated island that even you will search on Google Map, you won't get it. So there are so places like that. And I was living in an orphanage with them for 15 days, like the way they were living. And my motive was to make sure in next 1 year, no one should die due to drinking contaminated water in this school. So I went there, and I also recruited few students from Makerere University in Uganda. And then we started working, and we established water treatment device, and we also established water tank over this school so that this small kids doesn't have to pull water from well. And you can see the difference of quality. Before they were drinking this contaminated water, and after that they got this cleared water. So this is something I'm showing you because although if you will go to USA or Canada with normal or with your own funding, you won't get this kind of experiences to do with during your masters. But having a scholarship which can back you off, you can imagine anything and you can also do it, because you know that no matters whether it's successful or not, you will be getting around 80 to 90,000 Indian rupees in your account every starting of the month. So those things really helps during or achieving all these things. After completing my internship in Germany, I decided to move. I had Spain experience, UK experience. I wanted to explore the German education, and they're really good with data analytics and data science at this particular university. So I thought of why not to go and study at Brandenburg University. So I decided to go there, and I did my first semester at Brandenburg University. And for my final semester, I had a Indian background because I studied in India during undergrad. I got background about Europe because I did few semesters there. Got an African background by working in Uganda. So I wanted to explore North America, which is so famous for higher education. So I applied in top schools, and for last semester, the European Commission pays everything, no matter which university you're choosing. You can choose from all over the world. So I decided that I should choose the most expensive and the best one. So I decided to apply into college. In US, I applied for MIT. I got an acceptance from there. In Canada, I applied for University of Toronto. I got an acceptance from both of them. But due to COVID and due to particular visa issue with J1 visa, I couldn't get into MIT, and my professor asked me to move to University of Toronto, because here one of the professor under whom I'm working is also a student of the same professor where I was going for MIT. So I started doing my last semester at this, and currently I'm doing the same one, as well as in spite of having Erasmus Mundus scholarship, because my profile was strong, I applied for another scholarship which is very famous in Canada called MyTech scholarship. So I got $6,000 from there, and I'm also getting a stipend from my professor. So I can show you that if you have the will and if you are really passionate about your field, money is not the problem. I came from a middle class family, and I got sufficient money to do all the things which I wanted to during my masters. And yeah, I'm living my life comfortably, and I don't need to work some odd jobs as a at restaurant and all. So if you field and if you have good profile, if you manage to have couple years of experience, university professor, and everyone will treat you really well, and you can enjoy your life. So you will ask, okay, these things are quite fancy and it's cool, but how did you manage to get all these things, and what you did, how you managed to build your profile so well that you got this scholarship? So you might be also thinking, okay, this guy must be from some great school back in India, IIT, NIT, or I must have scored more than 9 CGPA. But surprisingly, I didn't go to IIT, and I didn't have that much of CGPA also. I scored 68%. And I'm not embarrassed to tell that. In my university, it was a good percentage, because 75 used to be the highest, but still it's not that much. 68 is very less for foreign universities. So I will tell, this is the master thesis which I'm writing currently at University of Toronto, and it's because although I'm traveling and living outside India, but I want to work and do something for Indian people. So this is my thesis devoted to it. And a little more about this scholarship and the contribution by European Commission. So most of the time you will be in the Erasmus partner student, because you are coming from India, and each month you will be getting 1,000 euro for entire duration of 24 months, and 1,000 euro is for your monthly stipend, in which you will be paying your rent as well as your living expenses. The moment you join the program, they will give you $1,000 for purchasing books, laptop, and if you want DSLR and all those things. And for travel part, to fly from India to Europe, they will be paying you around 3,000 euro, which is you can book a business class flight to Europe. So all this kind. So, and again, after this, they will be paying for your medical insurance and all the other expenses which you can think of. There will be some site visit or field trips which will be in different countries in Europe, and it will be also paid by European Commission from flight, hotel, and everything. So you don't need to worry about your stipend or money if once you got this prestigious scholarship. Regarding the profile, I went to Kolkata College of Engineering. It's a tier 3rd college, and I graduated in 2016. But what made my profile different was my approach during my undergrad. Right from the beginning itself, after completing first year, I decided, okay, I couldn't clear IIT, but IIT is the best place where I should be going to and building my research profile, because that's the best place in India to have the best mind, and the professor are doing some significant research there. So I decided to join. Just after my first year, I went to IIT Delhi, did my winter internship there, and after completing winter internship, my professor was pretty much happy with my profile, and he asked me to join as a summer intern too. So I continued my internship at IIT Delhi, and after completing my internship, I realized like, okay, I got the technical background from IIT. How about going to a research institution like IISc, where they are focused more on research, and I can get the other side, the background of other researchers. Although preferably you should try to get into some foreign universities, and I was trying to do the same, but I couldn't get it because maybe my school was not that good and neither my percentage. But I will recommend for 3rd semester to go to there are Charpak scholarship, IFLS scholarship, MyTech scholarship in different countries where you can go and do your internship. So that will be really good and impressive. And especially if you manage to publish a research paper there during that internship, that will be like super awesome. So for me, for the next semester, I went to Indian Institute of Science. There is a prestigious program called Indian Academy of Science. And if you are performing really well, you will be getting selected from all over the India. These are the few students who got selected in 2015 to do 3rd semester, after 3rd semester summer internship there. It was really good, and I really liked the research work. But after completing research part, because as famously said by Steve Jobs, you can connect the dots looking back. When you are in 3rd semester, it's really difficult to see where you will be after a few years. Now I can tell you things about what went into my mind and how I was thinking, but that time it was really difficult. So I explored myself into 2 different places of during research, but I also wanted to see and go towards industry side, just to see myself how will I perform and whether that's my calling. So for that, I applied for CH2M, which is now Jacobs, got acquired in 2017 by Jacobs, and I did my internship there in New Delhi. And after completing my internship, I got a PPO from there. And so due to PPO, after completing in 2016, I was not worrying like where I will be working and all. Most of the civil engineer, they target to go into L&T, but because of lack of knowledge. And I believe like even the Erasmus scholarship, it's not that difficult. It's competitive, but not as competitive as like Rhodes scholarship. So if you build your profile right from the beginning, and if you have this particular set of knowledge, you will be able to crack it easily. That's not a problem. So during all this internship, I was doing this, but I told you like going to foreign countries and winning challenges and all these things were always in back of my mind. So from 2015 itself, I decided that, okay, I need to go and explore Europe. And the best way I found was to participate in international business case study competitions. So these competitions, these companies like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they organize case study competition on a particular website. Like different websites are there, and students from all over the world will be participating in this kind of competition. So they will be having a particular management issue. They will be putting there on web, and students will compete. It's a win-win for both sides. For company, they don't have to hire McKinsey, BCG, Bain for their higher management problem, which cost them a lot of money. For student, it's like if they manage to come under top 3, top 5 teams, they will be getting fully sponsored trip to a particular country. They can go and pitch in front of like higher management, like CEOs of those companies, and they will be having a great experience and something amazing to write in their CV. So I decided that, okay, this is the path in which I can follow. I can explore Europe. I can pitch in front of higher management, something great, which is getting added to my CV. So I liked to pursue this one. For the first competition itself, I participated in 15 competitions, and I failed every time. Like I couldn't get into top 3, top 5. But after some time, I was able to manage into getting into top 3 positions. And I performed so well, so poorly there that out of 3 teams, I got third rank. This is the second runner-up team, the driver experience challenge. But that was not the motive. I just wanted to go to Paris, explore Paris, and see how things works there. So after reaching there, I lost my interest, and I was just preparing. Like, okay, I'm among the finalists, and I will be getting something. And I came third. But after that, there was like, okay, this high is over of traveling to foreign countries, but now I want to win also. So I started participating in other competition. In Brussels, I got second rank, and again in IoT challenge in Paris, I got a first rank all over the world. So you can see, although for me it was fun, but at the same time these things were getting added up in my building my profile. Like that time I was not aware, like, okay, going to IIT and IISc will help me to get into masters. I was completely unaware because I didn't have an opportunity to see a webinar like this. If someone could have guided me like that at that point, it would have been even much more easier for me. I tried I explored everything, and then I decided I want to go there. But you guys are like very lucky that you have someone who can turn in the beginning itself and help you to achieve all those things easily. So after completing my undergrad, I joined Jacobs, as I told, and I had a great time there. I worked there for 2 years, and my manager was the one who inspired me to go for my master's. So I will also recommend, if you're working in Indian companies for a couple of years to build your profile, just try to get into the top companies of your field. And if you have those things which I mentioned during your undergrad, it won't be difficult. And as Nikhil mentioned, that your letter of recommendation which will be required, and it helps a lot. If you have a strong recommendation from a strong company, maybe it could be one of the factors deciding for you to getting the scholarship. So go and do well after completing your undergrad, do and work in a good prestigious firm. So this is like details about myself, but now I will be telling you the procedure, how things happen. Like during my job at Jacobs, I was communicating with other seniors who had this scholarship. So I kept on talking and started building my profile, knowing about what are the things which will be required, and then started preparing for GRE, IELTS, and the other requirements. Erasmus Mundus scholarship is like just normal other application and scholarship. You need to build your profile for getting admission at universities, and when you have the admit, and if you have applied from a particular set of day, like on 31st January is the day, if you have applied for the master's before that day, you will automatically get considered for the scholarship. So there was no different set of rules to follow for scholarship. There will be application procedure of preparing your cover letter, your CV, your statement of purpose, getting recommendation letters, and all those things, which you usually do for all universities. But if you got an admit from university, they will be arranging an interview, and it can last from 1 hour to 90 minutes. And during that interview, they will be asking a lot of questions, and that will be because they are going to select usually only one student from each country. So you need to perform really well in that. And if you have a good profile in your particular field, I don't think it's that difficult. Although there will be multiple candidates from India, but because you know all these things right from the beginning, you can communicate with your seniors who are already studying in this kind of program. They can really help you, and they can tell you tips and tricks, what to say and how to deal with all those questions. And once you given the interview, they will take 3 to 4 weeks, and after that they will announce the result on web. And if you got the scholarship, like probably you will get invited from Parliament of India also, like they will call you for a dinner and with like European Commission head and all those things. And then in September, near to September, you will be choosing the first university where you want to pursue your master's first semester, and then you will be taking a flight to go there. And after that, like the whole world is the limit. I managed to travel around 30 countries during last 2 years. So you can see like there is something which is you are pursuing your master's as well as living your life the way you want to live. So even in the end, it's the worst case scenario. Even at the end, if you couldn't get job or if you don't have anything in your hand, during your masters, you will be moving back to India with some money in your account. You won't be having loan of like 30-40 lakhs, and you need to scare like how I will live my life if I have to go back to India, which most of the students in USA have. So yeah, I told you about Erasmus Mundus scholarship, but I managed to get other scholarship, also Netherlands Fellowship and NITEC scholarship, which I'm currently having. But my profile will be in foreign admit one, and maybe you can contact Nikhil or me directly from that website, and I can help you build your profile. Not only this one, but I can also help you in Shivings or Commonwealth scholarship, which is very famous in UK for Oxford, Cambridge. There is Eiffel scholarship for France. And just because I have studied in different countries in Europe as well as in North America, I can help you compare why to go to USA, why to go to Europe, what you can expect from other universities, how will be the life out there, what are the difference between education system. There will be very few people, I think, who will be getting the opportunity to live in 4 different countries in 2 years. So I could be one of the mentor for you if you want to become a mentee, and you can join for an admit for that. So maybe I will open the session for question and answer. One by one, you can ask whatever question you feel like. You don't need to worry about whatever language. Hablas poquito español also, so whatever language or whatever question you feel like, just ask me like a friend, and I will be more than happy to answer those things.
I think one question which I had probably might help other students to understand is Erasmus Mundus only focusing on engineering-based students, or it is also open to other fields also?
Yeah, so in Erasmus, European Commission has more than 100 programs. I'm studying in one particular program, and in which they are selecting one student from India. But because there are so many programs, during my session, they selected around 23 students from all over the India for different programs. And yes, for your question, there are engineering programs, but as well as management programs, because these days they are trying to integrate data science, data analytics with finance and business backgrounds for students. So there is no MBA, but similar like MIM program, and there are a few masters in science program in which you can include management studies. So it's not
like public policy and all.
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, the consortium for those programs will be different. Probably in my case, I had programs at Spain, France, Germany, and UK, but there could be a chance like there will be some country, university from Norway or Sweden will be participating. So most of them will be from Europe, and yeah, I'm sure because I've seen the portal, there are more than 100 programs, and there are programs outside region.
Okay, so there is a question from one of the students. It's a general question, like seeing the current situation and the unexpected turn of events regarding the student situation, do you think that it's feasible to apply for masters into USA?
It's a good question, and it's depend upon a lot of other factors. I'm not so sure about how's your financial situation and other things, but if you will ask me personally, I don't think if you are ready to take loan or if you are getting scholarship, I will be supporting you to go and study at USA. The reason is, although the recession will be right now, but if you're involving yourself in 2020, you will be graduating in 2022. And just like the past recession in 2009, after recession, economy boom back quickly. So I don't think at the time when you will be graduating, like in 2022, there will be any problem with jobs and situation. Students who are graduating right now, like my session one, they are facing the problem. But for us, we were not aware in 2018 that this thing can come up and we will be having troubles. So first of all, I will suggest you to get full scholarship or get partial scholarship so that you don't need to take loan. And even the worst case, if you have to move back to India, there should not be any problem with like, okay, what will I do in India? And to answer your question, I don't think there will be any issue. You should go ahead with the plan you had. Probably it will be more even, it can help you in positive way because a lot of students will be having this question. So this year I'm expecting people will apply less, which helps you to get more scholarship. If there are less applicants, same amount of funding, probably you will be getting more scholarship. So I will recommend you to build your profile the way you are building, do as per plan, and apply the way you wanted to apply. That's not a problem. Thanks, Prisha.
Hi, I had a question. So I'm currently going to start my 4th year at Ashoka, and I'm studying political science and psychology, but I want to pursue my master's in public policy and sustainable development. And because I've spent 3 years at Ashoka in India, and even the next year I'll be studying in India only, I wanted to use the say 1 year or 2 years after I'm done with my undergrad to research or work abroad, because I've spent so much time just studying here and doing all my internships here that I wanted to travel a little bit to the countries I want to apply for my masters and then make an informed choice. But given this COVID situation and in general the visa and work permit issues, how feasible and viable would it be to apply to say startups or organizations abroad in say Canada or London or other European countries for summer of next year, and just say a 1 year long job opportunity there?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and yeah, quite ambitious also. That's really good. First of all, regarding your program, like in policy and in sustainable development, it's really good. And the best university for you in Europe could be LSE, London School of Economics. I'm pretty much sure that a lot of students from Ashoka University, they go and study there. So maybe you can target that university along with Shivings or Commonwealth scholarship. They pay everything for that program, and there will be one term, like after completing your master's, you need to go back to India after 2 years for a couple of years, and then again you can move back to Europe. And regarding your question, it's quite difficult, to be honest, because those people who are already, seeing the current situation, I would have said, yeah, you can do it easily if there would not have been COVID and this economic crisis. But right now, I feel like it's going to be a little challenging. But because a lot of students who are passing this year or next year, and even a lot of professionals who were working for a couple of years, they have lost their jobs. So mostly they will be fighting for those positions, which you will be also fighting. But I'm not saying it's impossible. You can surely achieve it. But I will recommend you to follow a particular set of path, like going through a particular program, like either going from a MyTech internship program or Charpak scholarship program. These are also for internship. So, or even for longer duration if you want, for 8 months, 6 months, or even longer than that. There is J1 particular visa in USA where you can go and work for 1 year, and it's not as competitive as like H1B or other visa. And you can work there for 1 year, and then you will be having foreign experience, which can also help you to get a foreign admit in different countries. So I will surely recommend you, but due to COVID, things are a little difficult because Trump has suspended J1 visa part. But in Canada, you can come to Toronto or Vancouver and work with some startup. You should start emailing them right in the beginning itself to their CEOs and try to write a specific email to each of them and try to show that, okay, how you can be so useful. Because for hiring you from the visa perspective, it will be difficult for them. They had, usually in USA and Canada, there is one policy for like labor impact assessment program, and they have to prove to government that we didn't have this kind of specialties and technicalities. That's why we are hiring someone out from India, out from that particular country. So the process for them would be to post a job online, and there should not be any candidate in 1 month applicable for that job. And if they couldn't, then they will file a special case for you, and then they can hire you for longer term. In Canada, if you ask, that process is called as LMIA, Labor Market Impact Assessment, which that company will require to do that. In UK also, after 2020, Brexit is happening and they will leave. So they will also have to do the same process, and you will be going on tier 2 in UK, and they will have to follow the same guideline. So although it's difficult, but if you have good contact in startup, or maybe I can suggest you can work a couple of months back in India itself with them. Like due to COVID, you're seeing everything is happening on a digital media, and if they really liked you, that way it will be cool. For landing an internship, it was really prestigious and difficult to land at Jacobs. So what I did, I said that okay, I'm ready to work for you guys for free for a few months, and then you can decide whether you want to hire me as an intern or not. So you can also, I'm not asking you to for free, but you can show that okay, I can be a good potential candidate for you, and I'm ready to work or show my skills for a couple of months, and it's not a bad decision to take. And if they like you, they will be more than willing to sponsor your visa, and then you can go and explore your.
Right, that was super helpful. I had another follow-up question. So you had mentioned that like applications will go down for fall 2021 admits. So if some of us do apply for a particular course, say in the US or even in the UK, there might be a possibility that it won't be as competitive, right? Say I'm looking at a master's in public policy or public administration, and under requirements they've mentioned that we prefer candidates who have say 2 to 3 years of work experience. That's not mandatory, but it's a preference for obvious reasons. They want to see how kids have performed at their workspace early and how they can navigate this course later on. But I've obviously been building my profile, and this one uncertainty as to whether chances of admission will go up for fall 21 has been encouraging me to apply to a few competitive universities, simply because the pool might the admissions pool might increase in size. So what would you recommend? Should I still wait for a year or two, see how the job market is, and then enter it, or should I just try to take advantage of this situation and get into a university of my choice, with the uncertainty that maybe the recession might last beyond say fall 22 when I graduate, and then I might have to come back to India?
Yeah. To answer this question, I think I will say you need to explore your profile and see in which company you are getting placed right now. After during your fourth, you are in final year, right? So maybe depending upon the situation, like if you got placed in good company where you would like to work even after your masters, then it's well. I mean, you don't need to worry about your application and the pool, how strong the candidate would be after a couple of years, because your profile is building really strong. And to be honest, it really helps once you get graduated from your masters, because a lot of my classmates, most of them have previous experience, but now some of them are graduating, and as they didn't have a past experience, they just joined after completing their undergrad, they are facing problems because for getting the job, sometimes some companies are asking like, what's your, how many years of past experience you have, and because they don't have, it's challenging for the internship or get the interview. So not getting a couple of years of experience is not going to hurt you. It's good from your application point of view, because it will help you to make your profile more competitive, and it will help you to get scholarship because they value a lot if you have work experience. And after graduating also, it's going to help you to get a full-time job in which country you are. So to answer your question, it's depend upon the company in which you are working for 1 or 2 years during the time when you are not going for masters. If you're working in a good, well-established firm from your field, it's a good and wise decision to keep on working there, and then you can apply for your PhD masters from there itself. Sometimes it depends, like in sustainability, there are CSR position, and in KPMG, EY, Deloitte, they're investing a lot of money in climate change and sustainability because of COVID situation. Maybe you can go to those places, and there are few programs at these companies where they sponsor the whole funding, the whole cost of education for the students, even for MBA as well as masters. So you can also ask your employer to pay for you, and because they are paying, you will be having an agreement with them that you will be working with them after graduating. So it's a win-win for both of you. Like, you don't need to worry about your funding, you don't need to worry about a job where you will get after graduating, and for company they are retaining the best talent. So there are many ways to answer your question. I will recommend you to get placed in a great company in your field, and then from there you can navigate. Don't be like in a hurry. I think spending or investing a couple of years in India of during work experience is worth, because if you got the scholarship of full scholarship like Erasmus Mundus, like I got 40 lakhs. Imagine me going 2 years before and not getting this scholarship. Saving 40 lakhs in India will take like 5-7 years, no matter in which form you're working. So yeah, I mean, get placed in good company and then apply for your masters.
All right. Thank you so much for answering this question.
No worry.
I would also request Nikhil to give his inputs on this question as well, because as he is encountering such applications for the next fall, so he might also give some more inputs about the application season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be
I have a little difference of opinion here, because there would be more students who will be applying. But yes, as the Saurabh said, there would be less numbers of applications from different countries. So currently, as we are seeing, because of the national differences which is getting created if we look towards the market. So Indian students would predominantly have a more advantageous situation, but then the competition might increase, because people who are deferring their fall 2020, people who have postponed for their fall 2020, and the people who are already planning, and the people who are planning due to recession. So these are the four kinds of applications that you may see for the fall 2021. So if you're targeting specifically for US, for UK definitely there's more vacancies for you to apply. The universities are there, but US has always been more competitive in terms of attracting more and more students. So in that particular case, I would recommend you to apply early rounds, like in the round 1 or round 2, if you're applying for any management related program. And for public policy, there is one very interesting course you may want to check out for. It's an Indo-US 1+1 master's program. It's something that we are just still testing out, and not getting a right fit job as of now in your field. You may want to look out for LSCF, that's Lakshmipat Singhania Education Foundation with UMass. They have a 1+1 year master's course which you can try out. They have 1 year in India that they still follow the US curriculum, and 1 year in UMass, and you can get I think 20 lakhs of scholarship is there for that, which covers predominantly most of the college expenses. And for public policy, as I think Saurabh said it right, London School of Economics is really good. IC has lately launched certain courses in public policy that you may want to check out, because certain friends of mine have been working into public policy and governance sector, and IC has gotten some good amount of grants. And if you're looking towards blue-green economy and governance towards these plastics and environmental solutions, then Portugal is something that you may want to look at, because Portugal has gotten somewhere around $52 billion of grant from the European Commission, and that would go towards R&D and venture perspective. So if those are the areas that you might want to look at. So Europe has always been good in these areas compared to US in terms of having more good governance support. So these are the particular areas that you should look at. And regarding funding, as Saurabh said, full funding is definitely if you get it, the more the merrier. But even if you don't get full funding, try to plan out what you need to do after your masters, because a lot of students, they just get into the masters with less clue what they want to achieve in their masters. So try to look at the kind of companies that you want to join after your masters, and what kind of roles you want to need in that particular company. Then do the reverse engineering of what kind of skills that you may want to build in that master's program. You should be very conscious about what you want to build in that master's program. Just suppose not everyone may get a full funding, but even if you don't get a full funding, how better you can utilize that course to get a very high return of investment. Get a good job after masters, something that you may want to look at. So identifying the kind of profile that you want to join after masters, and then identifying the skill gap, then planning your relevant master's degree would be really a conscious choice. And then you can always superimpose the scholarship factor and build a profile currently for your target scholarship.
all right. Thank you.
Okay. Anukriti has asked, I would like to gain some research experience in psychology. What could be some institutions within India you should look at? Okay. You should look at companies which are basically into mental health and wellness. There are a lot of big startups which are coming in into mental health and wellness. Those are places you should be working at. This corporate mental health is something that is now being talked about. If you're looking in India, there is one startup which has been founded by one of the Flipkart, employee. I'm not able to recall it, but if you just Google it out, you'll find out. That's one. And then Your Dost, Mental Health, Parent Lane. These are some good startups that you can look at. But if you're targeting a particular university, JK Lakshmipat has some, particular courses that you can, go for an apprenticeship or for a project. Even I think IIT Delhi had some. I'm not sure right now if they are having that opening. They do have some project staff openings into psychology department. Go there. There are certain good projects that are being worked out in IIT Delhi. In IIT Bombay, I really remember there are some projects which are working on in psychology and student welfare and corporate welfare and all. So those are the places that you can easily look at. But then it's a more specific search. You may have to take support of probably Google, or you can anyway connect to a platform and speak to one of the psychology mentors, and they can probably guide you better in that. Did I answer your question?
I actually wanted to build on this question, because even on the internet, there's a lot of uncertainty and mixed answers as to whether we should dive into a startup after our graduation, or if we should work at an established corporate sector, a finance company or something of that sort. So if we should go for the big names, or should we go for a niche startup and over there show how well we contributed and how well established our role was, versus being a business analyst at a big firm where they obviously know what you did for a year. It was a very like a very predictable role that you were basically carrying out. So what is your take on startup versus corporates?
So you want to try this? I'll answer.
I think, I have the experience from civil engineering and engineering point of view, but I'm not so sure because her background is from different field. For civil engineering, I think there are very less startups, because the kind of engineering we have, there will be really few startups which will be building bridges or airport, because you need a lot of money. So there are in the digital form they work, and if you're getting somewhere in digital area, it's cool. But for me, I followed the well-established path, because if you are applying for foreign countries, I thought okay, in different countries there will be presence of my companies there, and in fact I knew that from which a lot of students are getting placed after my masters. So I knew my professor are aware of the company name, and probably if I will go to that company, it will help me to get a scholarship. So I followed the well-established path, but your path can be different, because depending upon your field, the kind of startup you have, the funding they have, the CEO, and from which company. If there is some startup which is established by a McKinsey partner, I will definitely go and join him to get the experience, because it will be really valuable. So depend upon a lot of other factors, and I'm not so sure about your current field. Probably Nikhil will be able to answer for your field.
Yeah. To answer the question, the number one thing that you need to focus is a brand. If you can get associated with a really big brand, then it's good. The brand recognition helps. But then also there's a line that we need to draw, that this is the kind of profile I would work, or this is the kind of profile I would not work in that brand either. Okay. So you don't have to change the entire field to get associated into a brand. If you get somewhere as an allied field into that, you can always look into this. But if you're looking at a master's perspective, your profile really matters a lot. What you have done in that particular job gonna matter a lot. Okay, and if you see any particular startup or an early stage organization which has more impactful work to be done, let's say Nudge Foundation or Give India these are the like, bunch of small, upcoming. Nudge Foundation, however, is like, I think 20 years old organization. So you can always get into those kinds of companies also, and even NGOs, also work in this particular space of mental health and wellness. So those are the also places. But then you have to really focus on the kind of profile that you're building. You don't want to get into sales and marketing profile with a psychology background and not making worth out of your profile. Even if you get into sales, but you should be more into the strategic aspects of the sales, where you can govern into the sales psychology. That's again one of the very interesting niche fields is coming up. But then you have to be really careful of what kind of profile that you're looking at, because if you are doing more impactful work, the kind of letters of recommendation that you will get in due course of time from the individual, that would really important. So talking about the individual, one thing that you may want to keep in mind when you're choosing among the bunch of startups is who would be your manager, or who would be the kind of person from which whom you want to get your recommendation. A person, let's say, who have gotten a bunch of awards, good, famous person, well recognized, if that is the kind of person who can give you recommendations, his internet presence, his impact over the world would really matter a lot. Okay, so that's something you may want to look at if you're even looking for startups. Try to look into the founder's profile and your profile. So that's the initial phase that you may want to go over. And then you can always switch in 1 year in a general startup, you got a decent profile, very good, then you can always switch to a bigger company. Those 2 years you can always mix and match, but that's a very subjective choice that you have to take. Anything else? Okay, I think we have 3.5 minutes left, so we'll take some final questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Any final questions?
Guys, sorry. If any of you have any longer questions, just shoot me a mail. If you have some shorter questions, you can put it out right now.
Yeah, I would recommend one thing that because I understand Saurabh come from an engineering background, and a lot of you have interest into public policies and certain humanities related background. So we have a bunch of mentors on foreignathletics.com. You may want to check out their profiles. We will be doing more webinars in the coming week with these mentors also, so that you can always attend and have more doubt questions cleared. What are great business or management programs which don't require work experience and can be done straight after college? Saurabh, I think from Europe, you should be the guy to tell this.
Yeah, actually, usually for the business and management program, a lot of candidates, they go for an MBA, to be honest. But in Europe, unlike India, in India, you can go for an MBA just after completing your undergrad to IIMs. But in other countries, you require a few years of courses. But these days, during the past few years, a particular course called MIM is becoming really famous in Europe. And in that course, you don't require a prior experience, and you can do right after doing your undergrad. If you have 1 year of experience, it's really good, but not like an MBA, which requires 4 to 5 years of experience at Harvard, Wharton, or Stanford, or anywhere. If you want to know a particular college, I will do INSEAD. It's in Fontainebleau in France, and they have a really good MIM program. You can explore about that one. The other colleges which will be really cool will be London School of Economy, London School of Business. They also have MIM. HEC Paris, they have MIM, really famous and really good one. IESC Barcelona, their MIM program is also great. So these are the few top one, and they are top in the whole world, not in just in Europe. They can compete with ISB, and they can compete with Wharton, Stanford, any one of them. So instead of, if you want to go just straight after your college, I will recommend you to go for MIM rather than MBA. And if you can get placed in good companies, and if you have time to do 3-4 years of WorkX, then you can go for an MBA from the same school. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
There's a very interesting announcement I want to make here. Uh, uh, from past, I think 6 months, we have been developing a very special ebook for MIM. It's been written by one of the MIM mentors, and it's being reviewed by almost like 12 to 13 top universities, as mentioned by Saurabh, MIM mentors. We'll be finalizing the ebook, and it will be launched by the end of July. So that this ebook would be like a self-help guide which we are building, so that it will help you to navigate and explore why MIM is a university and how each university process is gonna look like for you. So it would basically dumb down the entire MIM process to like a bunch of like 30, 50 pages in total for all the top universities that you can apply for. So yeah, that's something going to be there. So probably you may want to subscribe to like foreignadmits.com updates. So once we launch the ebook, we'll definitely let you know that you can always get hold of that ebook.
Okay, Shrama,
Okay.
I guess
So
we're good to wrap up.
Uh,
yep.
yeah. Uh, Sir, thank you for joining us. Nikhil, sir, thank you as well. Um, if the students have any further questions, I'll just mail you, Nikhil, sir. If that's fine. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.